And joining me now is Congressman Mark Sanford. Congressman, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Pleasure.
So you lost your first election ever this week. Do you put that blame on Donald Trump?
Plenty of blame to go around, but if you boil it down, I wasn't Trump enough in the age of Trump. Yeah. And yeah, so in that regard, he certainly had a hand in it.
You knew this for a while, though. You saw this up front. Mm-hmm. When did it dawn on you that, boy, this is a tide that you're not going to be able to defeat?
My boys have been saying this for a while, and you begin to feel certain things, but at the end of the day in this process, you got to be you. Mm-hmm. And so I'd spoken out as I had with regard to the president, and it costly. So the campaign commercials by the opponent were sort of the greatest hits of certain things I said against the president over the last year and a half. But if you look from a policy standpoint, I was actually very supportive. So this was not about policy. It was about personal loyalty. And that's where I think this race has much greater implications that go well beyond the 1st District of South Carolina, because the premise of the institutional setup that our founding fathers gave us was on vigorous debate and dissent, and not a loyalty test to a person, but a loyalty test to the Constitution and the ideals that we might hold as a Republican or a Democrat.
Let me play what some of your colleagues, how they reacted to your loss. Yeah. Take a listen.
When you're in primary season, again, it's usually a good thing not to be at odds with the most important elected official in your party.
If you're not on the same page as the president, and 85–90% of your base is, you can see where that could cause a problem.
And it's okay to be critical, but you also have to add value. And, my view is that I guess people didn't see the value.
I know how close you and Lindsey Graham are. I think he's the godfather to one of your sons. I've noticed he's changed his style of late. It's and you didn't. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that reaction?
People scared of getting bad news from the president. They're going to say what they want them to say. Again, the number of people who will say privately to you, this is as tribal as I've ever seen it in my life, but then publicly will say the kinds of things that you just saw on air, is remarkable to me. That's been the case since the election, but even before, when I was saying certain things where I legitimately disagreed with the president, based on stands that I'd held for 20 years of my life.
What's conservative to Donald? Do you think Donald Trump, is the definition of conservative changed inside the Republican Party?
I think we got to do a whole lot of soul searching in this party. The number of calls, again, that I've gotten from folks back home, because it was a narrow victory. It was
very narrow.
3,000 votes one way or the other.
Probably only 600 votes for a runoff.
Correct. But what was interesting is the number of people who said, look, I want something between sort of halfway crazy and socialist. What's happened to our party? I hear that over and over and over again.
What's your explanation?
Well, legitimately, the Trump phenomenon was caused by people who wanted to see a change in the way that Washington works. And that is real, and it needs to be acknowledged. But it has morphed or metastasized into something that is quite different about this larger loyalty to the president himself. And so, have I been loyal to, the conservative cause? Yeah, I've got every merit badge in the book, if you want to call it that, on the front. Have been loyal to the precept of constitutionally framework in the way that we enter? Yes. But there was an added dimension that I'd never heard before in any of my races, because I hadn't changed, if you look at my voting record. The added
stubbornly so to some.
was, are you for or against the president? And I'd give this answer that was nuanced. Well, on the bulk of these issues I'm for, but on a handful I've had to disagree based on the voice of my voters, based on previous promises when I ran for office, or based on the things that I think important to limited government. And you get into gray, it doesn't work in this electoral chapter.
Bob Corker said this: it's becoming a cultish thing, isn't it? It's not a good place for any party to end up with a cult-like situation as it relates to a president that happens to be purportedly of the same party. Would you use that word?
I wouldn't go so far as cult, but I would just say that from an electoral sense, people are running for cover because they don't want to be on the losing side of a presidential tweet. Right. And from a popular standpoint, it's almost a Faustian bargain. I'll pander to you if you pander to me. Yeah. And that exchange is very dangerous, really, with regard to, again, what the founding fathers set up, which is a system designed to garner debate and dissent. And so I think, again, the idea that you can't speak out and say, I disagree with you here, but I agree with you on 90% of the stuff, it's again, a twilight world that I've never seen.
What about this issue that literally the president can just say whatever he wants, fact-free, mischaracterize the Friday morning spectacle was something to behold. You, like I said, you have been troubled by his issues with the truth. You've been troubled by some of the things he's done with law enforcement. But speaking out cost you your political career. Jeff Flake cost his political career. These are two people. You guys are very like-minded, libertarian-leaning conservatives. What does that say?
That's a larger commentary on society and where we are. But because we've gone from George Washington, I can't tell a lie about cutting down the apple tree, to they become so replete that nobody even questions them anymore. And that's, again, a dangerous spot to be in a reason-based republic. And so, was the tweet that the president sent out with regard to me accurate? No. But it doesn't, we don't even question.
It doesn't even matter. Why does anybody matter?
Right.
And people just shrug now. Right. Well, Trump being Trump, but it's dangerous, no?
It is real dangerous. Because I have a unique vantage point on this front. We all know the story of 2009 and my implosion.
Yes.
A lie was told on my behalf, which means I own it. And more to the point, I was living a lie in that chapter of life.
Yes.
But there were incredible consequences.
Yes, there were.
Financially, politically, socially, lost my marriage. I can go down a long list.
You paid a price.
Right.
You paid some price.
And so maybe the reason I'm so outspoken on this now is there is no seeming consequence to the president and lies. And if we accept that as a society, it is going to have incredibly harmful consequences in the way that we operate going forward based on the construct of the Founding Fathers.
Why is it just you and Jeff Flake and Bob Corker? Where's Speaker Ryan? Where's the head of the legislative branch?
People are running for the hills. And again, everybody, what you do as an elected official is, an old-time senator told me years ago, the name of the game is staying in the game.
Yeah.
And
so you compartmentalize?
You compartmentalize, you rationalize. I watched, I saw a thing the other day with Kevin McCarthy talking about how the president was a genius with regard to trade. And you're going, oh my goodness, tariffs are taxes. And yet somehow we're going to rationalize at a Republican Party leadership level that what the president's proposing with regard to, using Section 232 and go down the list,
right,
in very strange ways, is somehow okay with what the Republican Party has historically stood for with regard to engagement or trade. I could come up with a long list of things that people rationalized, but they do it fundamentally because they want to stay in the game.
What's your future? You seem to be somebody that you're not done. Obviously, you were running for re-election. You would like to play a role here. You want to take these issues national in 2020 and debate the president about the direction of the party?
No, I'm just trying to sort out the last 48 hours of my life. And if I'd never lost election before.
Right.
So this is new territory, but there's some real soul searching that goes with it. I've had a couple different chapters of life that have caused intense soul searching. This is going to be one of them.
You have $1 million in your account. Should you? Some people say, how is it that if you lost an election and you're sitting on $1 million, did you not use it?
Because here's what it says. I know the rules of engagement. I've run a bunch of different races, and many of them very, very difficult races. And what worked for me in the past didn't work for me this time. In other words, it wasn't as if I was unaccustomed to tough elections, but again, the playing field has changed.
You knew this was going to happen, didn't you?
I wouldn't say that, no. But the playing field has changed, and so, in the military they talk about proportionality. In other words, you're moving, they're moving. And I ran the best race that I thought I could while still being me.
Congressman Mark Sanford, former governor of South Carolina, happy Father's Day.
Thanks so much.
And thanks for coming on and sharing your views. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.